Hello, and welcome to the next installment of the Jolene's Books and Writers Talk podcast. Today, our guest is Vickey Wollan, a sweet romance writer who is delving into suspense with her next series. Miss Wollan has written for business publication, but is excited to embark on her long awaited romance writing journey. Having a good run in the corporate world prepared her to become an entrepreneur in creativity and relaxation. Her stories are designed to transport readers to a less stressful portion of their day and leave them with a feeling of awe. Her work is now published in six fiction books, including a completed three novel series. At what stage or stages of your life have you done your most writing?
Well, okay, currently. I mean, but there's a story behind that. So the answer to the question is currently, but I've been writing off and on all my life.
Right.
And I had the privilege of creating my first book when I was in elementary school. So I wrote this book when I was in second grade, and this is Timmy the Turtle. And it's, I don't know if you can see it. I illustrated it myself.
Very nice. Very nice. That is so cool.
There's Timmy. And the moral of the story is Timmy didn't like people throwing trash in his pond.
Hey, can't blame him.
And look at that romance. Two turtles. After Timmy cleaned the trash out of his pond, he found a female turtle and he was happy. So I also wrote a lot in high school. I was able to take a creative writing class. And funny story with that, my grammar has never been my strong suit, and so I would get A over F on my stories, where the teacher loved the stories, but my grammar always brought me back to a C. And then in college, I took classes in journalism and public relations, so obviously we did a lot of writing there. And thank goodness things like Grammarly came out. And now that I'm retired, I'm a full-time author, and so I'm writing the most right now.
Do you have other writers in your family?
I have artistic folks in my family, but no other writers. I have people who paint. I have people who are musicians, very creative folks, but no other writers.
Hypothetical question. If you can invite any three people for dinner, who would you invite? And they can be alive or dead.
The author who wrote the Nancy Drew stories. Maybe we should look that up and put that in. Can you Google that?
I think, Maggie would know that because she read all the Nancy Drew stories when she was growing up. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was by a syndicate. It was done by a writing syndicate.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why I don't know the name of the author. So the writing syndicate that did Nancy Drew.
There you go.
Maya Angelou. I love her poetry. So I do limericks, which are nowhere near Maya's qualifications or quality. Steven Spielberg. I like the creativity and the variety and, the drive and just what he's accomplished in his life. And I could learn a lot from all of those folks. So, yeah.
Are there any books that you've read more than once?
So I'm a Pride and Prejudice fan. I also like Wuthering Heights. When I was first reading after Nancy Drew, I was drawn towards historical romance. I love the folks who write that stuff. I can't envision myself doing the research to get it right, so I don't write historical. But I do like reading it. But you have to be careful, because if you read out of your genre, then that genre begins to trickle its way into what you write subconsciously.
Do you listen to audiobooks? And if so, which ones do you enjoy the most?
I traveled a lot when I was working, and yes, I listen to audiobooks, and I tend to like romantic suspense on audio for some strange reason. I do jump around genres. I also like paranormal and throw it at me and I'll read it. So romantic suspense on audio.
So you consider audiobook reading?
I do. Particularly if you can't physically read while you're driving, but you can listen and your brain knows what you're hearing and it's all good.
I know there's a big discussion on TikTok where some writers do not consider audiobooks as actual reading, or some book readers are very snobbish about that. And I say, hey, any way you can get that stuff to come into your brain? Is there any other series that you just love to read?
Not currently. It's difficult as an author. You're supposed to read, and I 100% agree with that. But trying to find the time to write new stuff and edit the stuff that you've written and promote the stuff that you've written. It's like have a life and, spend time with your loved ones. Not currently.
Okay, what part of a book do you enjoy writing the most? What do you find to be really fun to do?
The happily ever after, of course.
Okay, writing the happily ever after is it for you, huh?
Absolutely. So I write sweet and clean contemporary romance. The thing I consistently get from my readers is, oh, when I finish your books, I'm always smiling. I'm always in such a good mood. I love the way you finish your books. I do challenge myself to make certain that the dark moment is legitimate and heartfelt and has the feels, as readers call it, because I think that's an important portion of the book. But yeah, writing, happily ever after.
Are there therapeutic benefits to modeling a character after someone you know?
Sure. So I do not model 100%, but what I've tried to do occasionally is take a name of someone that I know and use their name, but it's kind of the character has nothing to do with that person's name, but they know that I'm using their name. So I kind of like to do that. Yeah, I mean, there are people that you have had run-ins with that weren't pleasant, so you put them upon your villain characters, those characteristics, or people that you admire and wish you could, emulate. And so those folks are your heroine or your hero, so that, yeah, those things shine through. But I think writers have to be good at more than just people watching, but understanding why people behave the way they do. And so when you interact with folks, you can kind of give them like a hall pass when they misbehave and they're doing something that is unexpected from their behavior. But there's quite a few times where I can envision the person who's saying something and it ends up on the page. Yeah. Not that they would ever know it.
No, no, no.
No.
But for you as a person, does that seem to help your soul or your frustrations, your tensions, whatever?
Not necessarily frustrations and tensions. I just want my characters to be authentic. You can create character profiles, and so you know what color their hair is and their color of their eyes or what education they have, but you kind of have to have a sense of their wound, most importantly, and that's the emotion of it. So you have to, you may not have personally experienced that wound, but you have to be able to write it in a way that the readers feel what that characters feel.
Which software programs do you enjoy using, or which ones do you find the most benefit to help you keep your story straight?
So I write in Word. I know there are softwares out there for writers, but I choose to write in Word. I make outlines. I know that there are authors who have their story Bibles, so particularly with a series. And I did find myself having to go back to my plotting tool in Word to make certain, how old was that kid? Okay, this book is 2 years later, so that kid is now, and in my series of Snowflake Christmas, all of the characters are in all of the books. Right. So I had to make certain I knew how old they were. And so, yeah, you need those kinds of tools to keep your memory together. A little bit of Excel, but for the most part, I'm in Word.
That would help.
Oh, yeah. I'm a spreadsheet gal, so characteristic. I'm old school. I've used a whiteboard or a piece of cardboard and, your Post-it notes, your stickies, and you just kind of like plot them out like it's a storyboard on a piece of postcard. And yeah.
Other than LY words and ING words, what would be your particular thing that
So when I first started writing, I was an ING word person, and I still occasionally like a phrase in the front of a sentence that starts with an ING. I try to keep it on the down low so there's not too many of them, but I think if you mix up those things, when you use them, it becomes that much more prominent in the story and it works. And yes, I went through my, oh heavens, don't use LY word phase. And then I kind of got over myself. And I use them sparingly when it makes sense for the sentence. From a grammar standpoint, it's too easy to kind of see Spot run, Jane went up the hill. It's like, wait a minute, you got to mix that up a little bit. Run on sentences that and It's like, oh, wait a minute, let's have sentences that are different lengths. And so as a writer, you don't realize just the number of skills you have to be able to be well-rounded in this career that we've chosen.
As a reader, what would throw you out of a story quickly?
Something that is so incredibly unrealistic, like, oh, it would never happen that way. I appreciate that it's fiction, and sometimes you kind of just got to jump in and go with the flow. But if the author is so off base as to how that might have played out, then it's like, yeah, no, it's like, sorry. Next. It's rare that I close a book and stop reading it and won't finish it. I kind of do like to finish what I start, but there are a couple of books that I just couldn't keep reading.
Part of what we do, or what we're required to or should do for each other, is book reviews, honest book reviews. Like, I have one friend that she won't do a book review on anything under 3 stars. She just won't write it. She'd rather not say anything.
So you give those directly to the author, and then you don't put them publicly anywhere, so the author gets the message without it necessarily hurting, their ongoing career.
Yeah, and they'll either take it or they won't.
Right.
That's the way it goes.
I mean, sometimes authors don't accept the requested changes from their editor. And I get it that not all editors are perfect, but it's like, ooh, okay. If my editor says you need to fix this, I may not fix it exactly the way the editor requests, but I'm going to work on it.
Yes, right. I mean, you don't have to accept everything you're told, but you have to think about it. If somebody feels that way, there's probably others out there that do, and
Correct.
something you might want to consider to look at. So,
yes,
that I have learned the hard way is, no matter what anybody tells you about your book, you have to be tough. You have to have a tough shell and take it as it's meant.
So in my series, A Snowflake Christmas, those books have mystical elements. They're very light, mystical. It's not paranormal, but they're in there. And the last book in the series is A Snowflake Christmas, The Elf. And the elf is a toy versus a truly mystical element. And one of my reviewers publicly said, I still love the story, but it wasn't exactly like the first two. Is part of the series. And I was like, she has a very valid point, but at least she liked the story.
Right. A lot of authors have different ways of relaxing. Some do gardening, some have pets, some travel, whatever. What is your favorite way to decompress or to get away from it?
So I have two things. My husband and I like to distance bicycle. And from a creativity standpoint, while you're working out, your mind's like, okay, I've done this how many times, I know how to pedal. So it helps your brain, move on to extra things. I also like hiking with my husband. So being outside and working out, same thing. And the second thing would be, I have pet chickens. They do the cutest things that they're more intelligent than you may think. And it's not like I can talk to them, but I get what they're feeling sometimes. If they're frustrated or happy, you can kind of tell. And so that's kind of cool, just to step out of the frantic world and hang out with some chickens.
Hey, to each his own. I know it's real popular right now, mostly for the eggs. Have you been to many book festivals or book events over the last 2 years? Which do you like?
So Space Coast has a great one. Orlando has a great one. I'm not necessarily certain I know the names of them all. I'm going to participate in the Jacksonville Book Fest 2023. That's coming up September 22nd and 23rd. I'll be there on the 23rd from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's in the main library, downtown Jacksonville. And I am going to be with the First Coast Romance Writers authors. There'll be at least 4 of us having tables. And so we'll be selling our own individual books, as well as the anthologies that are fundraisers for First Coast Romance. I have a story coming out in the most recent one, Romancing the Tropics. It's called Baubles in Bermuda. When I originally started writing, everything I write is sweet and clean, but I started out in the Christmas theme, and now I'm moving away towards action romance or adventure romance. And so my Lainey Shea Treasure Quest series will officially be launched next year, but the Baubles in Bermuda is a prequel to that series, and it's going to be the series of novellas. And I'm also releasing a cheery Christmas collection. It goes pre-order September 19th, just before the Jacksonville Book Fest, and that'll be released on November 2nd. And there's going to be a story in there, Eleni Shea's Christmas Treasure Hunt. So it's a prequel to the prequel. So you see Lainey in high school, and then you see Lainey in college, and then the actual series is when she's fully graduated and treasure hunting is her full-time gig.
Cool.
Yeah. So lots of Lainey Shea coming at you.
Well, as you were writing your series and envisioning your series, did you collect pictures of your characters?
You know, I know some authors that do that, and I kind of don't. Occasionally, I'll think of a very public figure and like this or that about that figure and borrow it. But I kind of keep my characters a little bit vague because I find that readers do a really good job of filling in the blanks themselves, and so their version of the character is fine. You know, I don't want to superimpose it has to be this or it has to be that, so I give them like the outline and they fill in the bones of the character.
And then the last one
of the things about writing, and I thought your folks might like to see, is I have a lot of support. You know, I don't do this all by myself. My husband is incredibly helpful with what I do. And of course, I have critique partners, and my family is supportive to the extent that they've given me gifts related to my books. And I call them my book mascots. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this. This is my first cover in a Christmas ornament, and of course the snowflake, and it's a snowflake Christmas. So the Christmas ornament was from my best friend, and the snowflake was from my sister-in-law. And then my mother-in-law, for my second book, gave me a nutcracker because it's a snowflake Christmas, the Nutcracker. Third book in the series, it's a snowflake Christmas, the elf, and my mother gave me this elf. And my husband made this chair that the elf gets to sit in. So these book mascots are always on my desk, and they cheer me on. And my critique partner gave me these earrings, and these are based on my book covers. So I like wearing those. Cool. And my husband got me this. It's my bracelet. It's my snowflake Christmas bracelet. I don't know if you can see the snowflake. So everybody keeps me inspired and supported, and I appreciate all the help from all the people I get their support from. So thank you to them.
An adventure series. So your graphics of your books are going to have to be more intense, right?
Sure. So they're going to have trouble finding what it is they're trying to find, and what they're trying to find needs to be valuable. And it kind of in and of itself needs to be a plot twist as to how they get there. So in the writing, you know, you have the inciting action, and then you have a turning point, and then you have a turning point. And so these turning points are part of this quest, and how they behave as an individual while they're on this quest. And when adversity is thrown at them, you know, how do they get through it? So that will be fun. I think it would be more exciting. I like the Christmas, but it's very light, and this has a little more substance to it. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Do you do your own covers, or do you source them out?
So interesting to ask that question. So my first series, my Snowflake series, this cover was professionally done, and that whole series was professionally done. I am moving towards doing my covers myself. This year, I'm going to do a cheery Christmas collection, which is an anthology of my own stories, September 19th, like I said. So I created that cover myself. And the Baubles in Bermuda cover is a story cover, not a book cover, within Romancing the Tropics. And I'm about to unleash that, uncover that, so that it's available when I do my next public event. But my sister is a painter, and so she painted it. Her name is Tamara Stickney, and she painted it per my specifications. And then I put it into Book Brush and added the fonts to it. So it is a painting with normal fonts, and it's going to make it unique. But the fact that I, you know, was able to say, hey, put a rock here and put a put people there, and how about the moon, and this and that and the other. It makes it more unique to the story. You can look at the cover and go, I know what the story's about. I have a sense. And a lot of covers do that. It helps you, but it's not quite the same as being able to design it yourself. Designing book covers is hard.
Yes.
It's a science and an art and a lot of different things combined. But hopefully I'm going to keep doing that for the Lainey Shea series, is having my sister paint those for me.
Okay.
Very much looking forward to that.
Okay, so one of your tools that you enjoy using is Book Brush. I
Correct.
remember you've talked about their service before. So tell us about Book Brush.
My first encounter with Book Brush was their free version, and you get so many of what they call mock-ups, instant mock-ups, and your cover goes into a picture that they've created, and you can pick the genre and the location, and so it helps you promote yourself as an author. And then from there, I upgraded to a gold package so that I could do my own covers. They have the ability to do videos, which is really nice. So when I created my cover for the box set, A Snowflake Christmas, the series, which is just an ebook box set, I made the cover for that. And I liked a couple, but I didn't like the background. And they have the ability to remove the background. So I put this couple on that background and, moved it around. And so when you see that, Amazon doesn't allow you to use the book cover within your series to represent the series. You have to create yet a new, unique cover for the box set, which is what I did. And people like it. It came out pretty well, and that's available now.
Okay. Do they have the 3D box sets that you can create?
Absolutely. Yes, those are really fun. And you can put platforms and 3Ds of your paperbacks as well. Mm-hmm. So from a marketing standpoint, I look professional.
Yes. I had to do it. I bought a template for a box set that I did for a client, and it was Photoshop. That took me about 8 hours to learn how to do that and get it properly lined up. And
Canva is good as well. I like Canva. I use Canva more for video than I do for art. I find myself making the art in Book Brush and then bringing it to Canva to make the video.
Right.
And again, it's a learning curve. Like you said, 8 hours to figure out how to use the software. Yeah. So one of the other things, and maybe this would help people want to be more active on social media. So I'm constantly trying to figure out how to grow my following. And I've given away free stuff. And like my YouTube channel has like almost 5 followers, but I still post.
That one's hard. The YouTube channel is hard. Okay. And I can tell you how to do that. That one you have to post every day. It's like TikTok.
Yeah.
And yes, you can do your commercials. Yes, you can do your Canva creations. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Shorts and all of that. And but mostly it's giving talks.
Content. Yeah, I hear you. My TikTok was doing really well, and then it just got more difficult to keep that up, to do videos of myself. Mm-hmm. I like to be dressed when I'm playing author versus, no hair and makeup, right? And I started doing some of those videos, the real me, unedited. And even then, it just got difficult to take the time to do it. And so I did more of the art stuff than the video of me. And I always find that a video of me plays better every time. And I knew that. So for example, this weekend I'm doing The Forest for myself and for Romancing the Tropics. And if I can get the gumption to do it, I'll post a video of me. I have artwork for it. They've given me artwork, but actually, I might as well do it while I'm dressed up today.
Yes, go outside. You got your Goodreads account up?
I do. I sent you a Word doc with all of my links, and everything's out there, and I've claimed all of my books. So Romancing the Tropics is live out there. That's the one thing about this career. It's constantly changing. Yeah. Just when you think you've got this social media thing down with any one of the platforms, then they change it, and you're like, oh, okay, I got to learn some more.